One of my favorite videos that I get to do every year on this channel is my final 2025 draft grades. This is the last video of the 2025 draft. It's been a year. We've talked about these prospects since last April, and we are finally towards the end. I can't be more excited about this video. And if you guys do enjoy NFL draft content, 2026 draft stuff is starting tomorrow. What are you guys waiting for? Hit that like and subscribe button. We're doing my way too early 2026 mock draft starting tomorrow. Leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new to the channel. And guys, let's go ahead and kick this off with the AFC East, starting off with the Buffalo Bills. Some interesting picks here for Buffalo. We'll start off with Maxwell Hairston. I gave this pick a D+. I'm just not very high on Maxwell Hairston as a prospect. I don't think his play speed and his testing speed are the same. And I think you're drafting Hairston to be that type of player. I don't think he's 4.29 fast. I don't think his ball skills, he had some nice plays at times, but I don't think his ball skills are consistent enough on tape. He's not super sticky in man coverage. He's more of a zone corner. And I get it. Buffalo does play a lot of zone coverage, but I'm just not a big fan of Maxwell Hairston. I think if you're drafting a corner in the first round, you need it to be a guy that is a slam dunk. And I don't think Maxwell Hairston is a slam dunk. Then they traded up in the second round to go get TJ Sanders. I'm giving this pick a C. I like TJ Sanders, the player, a lot. Was one of my favorite defensive tackles in the draft class. My number 5 defensive tackle. He's a good athlete. Ran a 4.95, 33 pressures with a 12.6 win rate this past year at South Carolina. But he feels very similar to Ed Oliver. I think Buffalo should have been more in the market for a Alfred Collins, for a CJ West. Go get more of a run stuffer. TJ Sanders, to me, is more of a finesse pass rush type. And then they took Landon Jackson at 72. I gave this an A-. I like Landon Jackson. I think this is a good spot for him to develop. He's a big, long edge rusher, 270 pounds. The upside with him is really high. If he can add some more pass rush moves to his arsenal, I think he could be a really good player. The explosiveness, the athleticism, it's there, but he's got to be more consistent at creating pressure. Then they made a move at 170, taking Jordan Hancock. I'm not super big on Jordan Hancock. I had a 6th to a 7th round grade on him. I didn't love his quickness, didn't love his athleticism. Not an amazing tackler, but a versatile defensive back nonetheless. Can play corner, can play safety. Had a pretty productive season, 6 pass breakups, 2 forced fumbles this past year for Ohio State. I like his versatility, but not a big fan of the player, so I gave it a B-. Then they took Jackson Halls at 173. This is one of my favorite fits that Buffalo made. Hall's an incredible blocking tight end. In my opinion, the best blocking tight end I have watched in my 4 or 5 years studying the draft. He's not really there athletically or as a receiver yet, but if he can put it all together, he is a perfect complement. If you want to play 12 personnel with Jackson Halls and Dalton Kincaid, I think you now have the option to do that. Dawson Knox won't be here forever. I really, really loved this pick for Buffalo at 173. They took Dorian Strong at 177. Loved this pick as well. He is a guy that I was a little bit lower on than the consensus. I thought that he was around a 4th to a 5th round prospect, but you got into the 5th, 6th round, the value was too good. He ran a 4.5 flat, but a guy that is a really reliable tackler. He's really smart in coverage, incredible instincts, can play zone. I think he's going to be a good player. I like him better. I like the value better than where they got Maxwell Hairston. So I'm giving this an A. Chase Lunt is an A+ pick to me. One of the best picks of the draft. Lunt is an incredible athlete at the right tackle position. A guy that he fell because he's really small at the tackle position. He's 304 pounds, but the guy can move like nobody's business. He is going to be a really solid player to watch. Reminded me a lot of Roger Rosengarten. Can he be more consistent as a pass protector? Remains to be seen, but I like this pick. And then they got Caden Prather at 240, my guy in this class. I love the physicality, love the route running upside. I think he could be a really good receiver. I had a 4th to a 5th round grade on him. He was my number 21 receiver in the class. Former West Virginia player. I'm a big fan of what Prather can do. And I think he was a really good pick. So overall for Buffalo, I'd give this draft like a B minus. I don't love the draft. Oh, I didn't even talk about Deion Walker at 109. Sorry about that. I like the Walker pick more than I like the Sanders pick. He had a back injury, but man, if this guy can stay healthy, I think Deion Walker can be a monster. We saw it in 2023. He's got a lot of upside. Is he a 3-tech? Is he a nose? We don't really know, but the size, he's just a unicorn. I don't ever recall seeing a player like this at 6'7", 331, 84.5-inch wingspan. So yeah, I'm going to give this draft like a B for the Bills. They addressed the defensive line, which I thought they needed to do, but I thought they reached on Maxwell Hairston. I didn't love the TJ Sanders pick as much as I loved the player, and I would have liked to have seen them maybe address receiver, maybe get a running back in there as well. But overall, good draft from Buffalo. Moving on to the Miami Dolphins. I really loved this Dolphins draft, to be completely honest with you. Not a lot of notes from me. Started with Kenneth Grant, loved this pick. They needed beef on the inside. Kenneth Grant, the best nose tackle in the draft class, 6'3", 342, ran a 5.11. Your big question is, can he be more consistent at being a pass rusher? Because there are times when he shows that upside, that ability to be a run-stuffing 3-tech. It's few and far between, but there are moments where he can get after the quarterback. I think he is the only thing in his way. I think this is a guy that has shades of a guy like Dexter Lawrence, and if he can develop properly, could be a huge player, figuratively and literally, for this Miami defensive line. Then they took Jonah Savainaya at 37, another pick I loved, continuing to just go away from their draft strategy of drafting the fastest guy. And they take Savainaya, who's 6'3", 339, ran a 4.95. He's athletic, can play guard, can play tackle, has been very productive. He moves excellently for the position, and he's just a really good fit for the offense. So I gave this an A. And then they didn't pick until 143. They got Jordan Phillips, another pick I loved. This is a guy that I think with his size can play 3-tech. He's not the biggest guy in the world. I believe, let me pull this up. He's 6'1", 318. But man, the potential that he brings as a run stuffer in the middle, they wanted to go get bigger on the defensive line. They drafted 3 defensive tackles. I love this pick. He is not a great pass rusher at this point. Is probably going to be he isn't going to play on a lot of passing downs, but a guy that had a really good impact in the run game. Then they took Jason Marshall at 150. I didn't love this pick for Buffalo. Marshall, to me, was more of a 6th rounder. Isn't the fastest guy, ran a 4.49. Has just not been very productive for the past couple of seasons. I think he's overly aggressive, jumps a lot. I like some of the other corners available on the board to them. He just hasn't been very productive with the ball in the air either, so I give this one a B minus. Like the thought process, I just wasn't a big fan of the player. Dante Trader, I give an A. I'm higher on Trader than the consensus. Had a 5th round grade on him. That's around where they took him. And I like what Trader can do. He's a good coverage player, closes ground really quickly. He's smart, he's instinctive, has sideline to sideline speed, can tackle really well. Maybe not the greatest ball skills. He didn't grade out super well in coverage, but he's a reliable tackler, a guy that I think can play in multiple positions in your secondary. So I give that an A. Ollie Gordon, I gave a B. I just don't think you need a running back again. You've got Jalen Wright. You've got Devon Achane. I get it. Ollie Gordon is more of the power back in this system, but Ollie Gordon's coming off a really rough year. I just didn't love the pick. I think wide receiver is a much bigger need for Miami. They didn't address that at all. So I gave that one a B. Quinn Ewers at 231, I gave an A minus. Now, you guys know I'm not a big Quinn Ewers guy, but in this scheme, I think you have to really consider it because he gets the ball out of his hands quickly. It's a lot of motion, very similar to what he did at Texas. And he's a 3rd-string quarterback. I think he's worth taking a shot late in the 7th round. They did that, and I like this move. And then at 231, they took Zeke Biggers out of Georgia Tech. I wasn't big on Biggers, but I like his frame at 6'5", 320, 85 and an 1/8-inch wingspan. He's got really stiff hands, though. He is another guy that I think you're really betting on to be more of a run stuffer. So I'm going to give this a B+. I like that they went out and they got size and they got bigger, but they needed to really, I think, go get more of a 3-tech, maybe another pass rusher. They didn't do that. They took 3 defensive tackles that I think kind of do the same thing. So I'm going to give it a B+. I would have liked to have seen them address wide receiver as well. The New England Patriots, unbelievable draft in my opinion. You got one of my best players in the draft at Will Campbell. The only reason it's not an A, it's the arm length. Is he a tackle? Is he a guard? We don't really know at this point, but you had to go get offensive line, and I think they got one of the best ones. I think they got the best one in the draft. Travion Henderson is an A. You can get him the ball in the passing game. He can block. He can be a really good speed back for you as well. He is a do-it-all type of back that instantly elevates this offense. Really, really loved this pick. Then they got Kyle Williams at 69. Loved this move for them as well. He gives them a bit of dynamism to their wide receiver room that they don't have. I like Pop Douglas, but Kyle Williams is a supercharged version of Pop Douglas. One of my favorite late finds in the class. A guy that started to get buzz at the Senior Bowl, but ran a 4.4 flat, 17.1 yards per reception. He can win deep. Reminds me a lot of Tyler Lockett. So a really good pick there. Then they get Jared Wilson, which was one of my steals of the draft. The best athletic offensive lineman in the draft class. They had question marks at center, and Jared Wilson instantly, I think, comes in and can be the starter on that team. He's a really good athlete, good run blocker. I think he's got the upside to really develop too. He's only started for 1 year, but what he showed is really encouraging. At 106, they took Craig Woodson. I like Woodson a lot. He started to get a lot of buzz late in the process. Was my number 11 safety. Had a 4th-round grade on him. Ran a 4.45. He's reliable. He's a solid mover. Versatility all over. Does need to improve his eyes. I think he bites a lot, but a really good coverage player nonetheless. Gave this a B. I think they could have gone and gotten another receiver, maybe gotten another edge, but nonetheless, I gave it a B. Joshua Farmer at 137, I think, is just smart drafting. Farmer is a raw defensive tackle prospect, but he's fallen into a system where he's not going to be asked to start right away. You've got Milton Williams, you've got Christian Barmore, and he's a guy that can learn from those guys. And in a year or two, I think he can start. The traits are there. He's got long arms, really good run stuffer at this time. He has to develop more pass rush moves, but the potential is there. At 146, they got maybe the steal of the draft in Braden Swinson out of LSU. A long, athletic edge rusher that can play off the ball, come downhill. Reminds me a lot of Harold Landry, and just a really, really good pick for them. Unbelievable that he fell this far, but just an incredible pick. Another A for New England. I didn't love their late round draft strategy. You took Andres Borregales, the kicker out of Miami. I'm giving it a C+. I'm not grading any special teamer very high. These kickers are very hit or miss, and the Patriots have not been great at drafting kickers. So give it a C+. Marcus Bryant at 220. Really like this pick, actually. I think Marcus Bryant is an offensive lineman that didn't get talked about enough in this class. He's 6'7", 320, ran a 4.97 at his pro day. Former SMU player. He plays high in terms of his pad. He lunged a lot in pass protection, but he's got the size, the length. I really like what he can do as a run blocker. I think he's got some power. He was a late sleeper for me, and a guy that I think could be a really good developmental shot. They took Julian Ashby, the long snapper from Vanderbilt, at 251, and Kobe Minor, the corner, at 257 from Memphis. I'm not familiar with either of those guys. Two guys I didn't get to in the process, but nonetheless, a really, really good draft from New England. This is an A draft to me. I think they hit on all of their needs. They are a team that I think could be a sneaky playoff team with how well they drafted, how well they did in free agency. Really good draft from New England. At the next team we'll talk about, the New York Jets. They only had 7 picks in this draft. I like what they did for the most part. Armand Membu, A+. You get the right tackle of the future, an athlete that can play inside, outside. He has been really productive throughout his collegiate career, and he's coming off a great year at Missouri. I think it was a no-brainer, and they made that move. Then at 42, you take Mason Taylor. Another no-brainer to me. He's young, he's athletic, and a guy that I think can be your tight end of the future. They haven't had this type of guy in New York in a long time. He is really raw, but I think the potential with him is sky high. Love that pick for the Jets. And then you got Azareye'h Thomas at 73. The speed at his pro day, not great, but he is super good in press coverage. You lost DJ Reed. You needed some more dog in that secondary, and Azareye'h Thomas has that. The only reason it's not higher, yes, he has speed concerns, and the ball skills haven't been great for him, but Thomas ended up finishing as my number 6 corner in the class. I like the pick a lot. Reminds me a lot of Jamel Dean. But then they took Arian Smith and kind of ruined what I think could have been close to a perfect draft. Arian Smith just isn't a good wide receiver. Horrible hands, not a great route runner, really slow gather, not great after the catch. There's just not much Arian Smith does at the wide receiver position that I like. So I gave that pick a D. Malachi Moore at 130 is an A. Brilliant pick by Aaron Glenn to go get a smart defensive back that can cover in the slot, can play over the top. They needed some help in the secondary at the safety position, and Malachi Moore, I think, could be a long-time starter in the league. He is a really smart corner. And then they took Francisco Mauigoa out of Miami. I like him a lot. I had a 6th-round grade on him, but I liked this value. He's a good run defender. I think he's a good downhill player. Just another depth linebacker for the Jets. He's not great in coverage, and he had 18 missed tackles this past season. That's a really bad number, but I think he can be a good player. I gave this pick a B, and then Tyler Barron, his teammate at 176, really fun player. He's a raw pass rusher. He's 6'5", 258, ran a 4.62. He is a guy that can play inside and outside. He's got some power in his game. I like his tape. I gave this one a B+. I'm going to give their draft probably a B+ overall. I think you could have drafted edge earlier. I think you probably should have taken a defensive tackle somewhere, and they didn't do that. And I would have liked to have seen them take a shot at a quarterback somewhere. But nonetheless, I think it was a fine draft from the Jets. I'm going to give this one a B+. Then we got the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, I'm going to just tell you now, this draft is an A+. I think this draft is my favorite draft maybe any team had. Malachi Starks, my number 1 safety, absolute steal. He fits perfectly next to Kyle Hamilton, can play inside, can play single high, good in zone man. He's a hard physical player. He's a good tackler. I mean, they got a steal at number 27, and then they got another steal at number 59 in Mike Green. I talked about it in my steals video, but we know why he fell. It's the off-the-field issues, but he is so good as a pass rusher. I think he's the exact type of guy they need. Can win with finesse, can win with power. I love this player. Emory Jones, I gave a B. I like him. He could play inside, he could play tackle, he could play guard. There's a lot to like there, but I just don't. He just had a bad year, it felt like, for LSU, and that's kind of why I ended up putting him here. I think he's definitely a guard at the next level. He's my number 12 guard in the class, but he allowed 28 pressures this past season, so gave that a B. At 129, they took Teddy Buchanan, my guy in this class. I think he's the perfect fit next to Roquan Smith. What he lacks in coverage, he makes up for in athleticism and a downhill presence. Really, really good player. I love that pick. I gave that an A-. Carson Vincent at 141. I think he's a really good player as well. He's a developmental tackle prospect, but the length and the potential that he brings is really intriguing. 6'7", 314, 35 and an 1/8-inch arms. His potential is there, coming from the FCS level at Alabama A&M. He's going to need to improve his play strength, and he plays high, but he's in a really good spot to develop. At 178, they took Bilal Kone, A+. I loved this move. Kone is another my guy in this class. He is a player that, once again, gives you flexibility in the secondary. 6'1", 186, serious jets. He's not a great tackler. He's not great in zone coverage, but I love what he does in man. I think he moves well. I give that an A+. Tyler Loop, the kicker, from Arizona, gave this a C+. Just not, I'm not in favor of drafting kickers in the top 200. LeJontay Wester gave this an A-. I like Wester a ton. Really good speed threat. He's a better blocker than I think he's going to get credit for. I think he is one of the more slept-on receivers. He's 5'9", 177, but he's really fast. He's really good in terms of just stopping and going. He's a nuanced route runner. He's undersized, has some bad drops, but I like the fit here in Baltimore to be a deep threat. Aeneas Peebles, A+, excellent value. He's an undersized defensive tackle that brings a mean punch with his hands, knows how to get into the backfield and create pressure. Robert Longerbeam, another A+, excellent value for a guy that I had in the 5th round range. They got him in the 7th. He is super fast, super explosive, and he's got good physicality to play in man coverage. Didn't grade out well in run defense. He's not a great tackler, but at 212, it's great value. And then at 243, went out, got another interior offensive lineman in Garrett Dellinger. I give this a B. Not the biggest fan of Dellinger, but at 243, it's hard not to like that pick a little bit. So this is an A+ draft. They completely overhauled this secondary. Got my two top 15 guys in the class for me. A my guy linebacker, a my guy corner. I love Aeneas Peebles. Gotten to speak with him before. Just love this class from Baltimore. This is an A+ draft. Cincinnati, it's B's all around. Shamar Stewart at 17 is an interesting one. I gave it a B-, and the reason is I just think they needed more instant production from this spot that they are not going to get. I think Shamar Stewart is very similar to Myles Murphy as a prospect. As much as I like Shamar Stewart, he's my number 5 edge rusher, love the athleticism, it's hard not to feel a little concerned going to a spot where, like Cincinnati, where he is going to be asked to be the guy right away. So I gave it a B-. I'm worried about it, and I think he's really raw, and he's such a bad tackler right now, and that's just not what Cincinnati needed. Demetrius Knight at 49, I didn't like the double-dip linebacker strategy, and I like Barrett Carter, the value, a little bit better. Demetrius Knight's a good player, 6'1", 246, ran a 4.58. He's a good overall athlete, but I do think his change of direction is limited, and he's an inconsistent tackler from week to week. Reminds me a lot of Devin Lloyd, but a guy that he's a fine player overall. I think they had more pressing needs, though, than linebacker, so I gave this one a B-. Another B- at 81, they took Dylan Fairchild. Like the thought process, I'm just not a big fan of Dylan Fairchild as a player. I had him as my number 20 interior offensive lineman, had a 6th round grade on him. He's got versatility to play at both sides of the line, but I just don't know that he is going to be a starting guard. Had a good season, though, and I think he's got some potential, but gave this one a B-. A B+ at Barrett Carter. Looking back, probably not the smartest move. You got Logan Wilson, Jermaine Pratt. I get there's some question marks on where he'll be next year, but I like the upside. He's a guy that would have gone a lot higher. He just had a really bad year for Clemson. The numbers just were not there for him. Struggled in coverage mightily, but I like the value. 6 foot 231, and I think he could be a nice player. Jalen Rivers. Look, I was not a big fan of Jalen Rivers. I thought he was overhyped, but here at Cincinnati, I like this fit a lot. He is a swing offensive lineman. I like this pick better than I like Dylan Fairchild. I think he can play tackle. He can play guard. He's 6'6", 319. Good overall athlete. Only allowed 9 pressures. I like this fit at 153. Then he took Taj Brooks at 193. More of a power back. If you're going to go power back, take Damian Martinez. He was right there on the board. So I'm going to give this draft a C for the Bengals. I just didn't think they made any move in this draft that made me super excited about the future of this team. Hope I'm wrong because I love this Bengals team. Joe Burrow is one of my favorite players in the league, but I just didn't love this draft from Cincinnati. Then we get to the Cleveland Browns, who they made some noise. They traded back. They picked up an additional first rounder next year from Jacksonville. Traded back, got Mason Graham. This is an A+ move. I love this pick a lot, actually. They needed to improve the interior of this defensive line. It's plain and simple. Mason Graham immediately allows them to do that. He is playing that Robin role to Myles Garrett's Batman. This is just a brilliant play. I give this an A+. And then Carson Schwessinger at 33. I like this move a lot with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah coming off a pretty serious neck injury. He hasn't been able to stay as healthy as you would like. I like this pickup for them. I really do. I think Schlesinger is a good, smart linebacker. He could be a downhill presence. He's really, really smart in coverage as well. Great instincts. That's a B plus for Cleveland. Then they got one of my favorite running backs, Quinshon Judkins. I love the power he runs with. I think he can be a contributor as a blocker, as a receiver. Nick Chubb's a free agent. I think he's the perfect Nick Chubb replacement. That's an A for me. Then they took Harold Fannin at 67. I didn't love this pick. Njoku's getting up there, surprisingly. I still think they could have probably waited in a deeper tight end class to go get a tight end. I would have liked to have seen them take an edge here, but you can't deny the production Fannin has had, and I think he's a really nice fit with Stefanski's offense. So I gave this one a B. Dylan Gabriel, I gave a C-. Thought it was too early. I'm not a big fan of Dylan Gabriel, the quarterback. I don't love the arm talent. I think he's kind of a one-read quarterback. There's some questions I have there. He's older, not great footwork, but I would have liked this pick a lot more if they didn't take Shedeur Sanders at 144. We'll get to that in a second. Dylan Sampson at 126, I gave an A. I just love the way they overhauled this running back room. You got Judkins and Sampson, a great 1-2 punch. Sampson, phenomenal speed, and Judkins, phenomenal power. Sampson also, though, he does a good job of fighting through contact. 5'8", 200, but he's really good. He's a more physical back than he gets credit for. I like that pick. And then Shedeur Sanders, it's an A+. You get the second best quarterback at 144. How do you not love that value? I'm going to give this draft an A- for the Cleveland Browns. I think they did a really good job. They took one too many quarterbacks, but ultimately, I love the way they traded back, got extra draft capital. I think this was a really smart draft from Andrew Berry and the Cleveland Browns. Then we got the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll get right into it. They didn't take a quarterback until 185. Derek Harmon, I gave it an A. I think he's a really good pass rusher. He's a good run defender. Fits well next to Cam Hayward and Keanu Benton. I like that pick a lot. Caleb Johnson is the perfect Najee Harris replacement. He's a power back, not super fast. I don't think he's got the greatest vision in the world, but he's 6'1", 224. I think he could be a good blocker. The long speed is questionable. I don't think he's super elusive, doesn't have the greatest vision, but was a very productive back at Iowa. And then he took Jack Sawyer at 123. Didn't love this pick, to be completely honest with you. I like Sawyer a lot. It was a top 100 player for me. I just didn't think the Steelers needed to go edge again. Yaya Black here at 164. A big physical nose tackle presence. I don't hate it. He can stuff the middle, be a good run defender. I like that pick for them. Will Howard at 185, I think, is a really good pick. I give this an A. Will Howard, to me, I had a 4th round grade on him, was my QB6, but you love the size, you love the athleticism, I love the accuracy, and he played his best football down the stretch. 72.8% adjusted completion. There's a lot to like about Will Howard. I think this could be a steal at 185. At 226, they took Carson Brunner out of Washington. Not really a guy that I was super in love with. Good athlete, moves well in the open field. He's a good overall coverage player, can blitz a little bit, but I just don't think he plays super control and don't think he's a great run defender. So I gave that a B. And then Dante Kent at 229 is a player that I didn't get to in the process, didn't get to his tape. So interesting draft from the Steelers. I think I'll give it like a B overall for them. I think they did a pretty good job. I like the Johnson and Harmon picks. I like the Howard and Yaya Black picks as well, but I thought they reached on Sawyer, and I didn't love their last two either. Moving on to the AFC South, we got the Houston Texans. This is going to pain me because I think they did a phenomenal job. Jaden Higgins is an A+, a big physical receiver who's got athleticism to win deep. He can win across the middle. I just don't see really anything to dislike about this pick at all. And he's just going to be I don't curse often on this, but he's going to be a bitch to go up against week in and week out. And you have to go up against him and Nico Collins. Ariante Ursary at 48, another A+, one of the best offensive linemen in the class. I think he can play tackle, can play guard, can move in the second level. He does a lot of really good things at the position, so I gave that an A+. Jalen Noel, also an A+. I love Jalen Noel. I hate the fit. As a Colts fan, I really hate this. But with Tank Dell's football future kind of in question, you kind of needed more of that slot weapon. And Noel, I think, absolutely does it. They drafted 3 Jalens this year. That's pretty crazy. Jalen Smith was the other Jalen. And I like Jalen Smith a lot as a prospect. He was a borderline. He was a guy I tweeted right before he accepted his invite at the Senior Bowl. I had a 5th round grade on him. I like the player. He's not the most explosive guy in the world. I think he bites from time to time, but I like his versatility as a slot guy. I just think it was a little early at pick 97. At pick 116, took a USC running back in Woody Marks. I gave this a B. I like Woody Marks. I like what he does as a receiving back. I think he can be a nice complement to Joe Mixon. At 187, they took Jalen Reed, a big physical safety from Penn State. Another pick that I kind of like for them. I think he can be a nice versatile defensive back. At 197, they took Graham Mertz. I thought this was very questionable. I like Mertz. I thought he showed some solid plays from time to time, but definitely not something I would have taken in the top 200. Keontae Hamilton, a defensive tackle that unfortunately I didn't get to the tape, but from everything I've heard, he's a nice run stuffer in the middle for Houston, so I gave that one a B. And then Luke Lachey at 255, an A-. I think it's good value to get an Iowa tight end. He hasn't been super productive. He's not a great athlete, but he's shown flashes when he's been healthy. Health has been a concern, but I gave that an A-. Overall for the Texans, I'm going to give this draft an A-. Really good process for them. They draft really, really well. Moving on to my Indianapolis Colts. Man, I'm probably going to be lower on the Colts draft than some. I think that the Colts had the worst draft of any team in this class. I'm just going to go out and say it. Tyler Warren's an A+. I don't really want to spend too much time on it because we talked about this fit a lot. But Tyler Warren's a really good player, and he fills exactly what this Colts offense needs. JT Tuimoloau is a player that I did not have in my top 100 because I think he lacks explosiveness and he lacks serious pass rush juice. Now, very good run defender, very strong player. I like the work ethic. I hope I'm wrong on this one. I was lower on him than the consensus, but yeah, a B- for me. I think there's a world where he can start and be a nice player, but thought it was a little early on my board. Then they took Justin Wally. I had a priority undrafted free agent grade on him. Really smart in zone coverage, but he's not that great in man. He doesn't show very good physicality. He's probably going to profile best as a nickel at the next level. And I just really hated this pick. I just don't understand it. Don't love the physicality. Don't love the man stuff. And honestly, I didn't love the effort. I thought he was a bad run defender and he didn't show a lot of effort. So gave that pick a D. Then they took Jalen Travis at 127, a player that I've been pretty low on throughout the process as well. He's got great size at 6'7", 341, but I just don't think he's a good athlete. He's got beat outside time and time again. He's really slow on his feet. I just don't love it. I don't love the pick. Now, I do love DJ Giddens as a compliment to Jonathan Taylor. The ability to make guys miss in the open field, the jukes. I think he's really good. Riley Leonard didn't make very much sense at all. I thought he was not a good quarterback, to be honest. He doesn't have a great arm and just does. I get it. He can run a little bit, but that we have two quarterbacks that can do that. Take this upside swing on a guy like Quinn Ewers. This was a bad pick. Then they take Tim Smith at 190, which I like this move. Another big body on the defensive line. He's got experience. He's just a grown man. He's very strong. I do like this pick for the Colts. I had him around this range, and I think this is a good move. And then at 232, they take Hunter Wohler. A fine move, I guess. Wohler didn't have a great season at Wisconsin. Bad in coverage. But overall, I'm going to give this Colts draft like a C-, maybe a D+. I just really didn't like this draft. I'll give it a C- because I think Tyler Warren can save it, but I just thought this was a really bad draft overall from Indianapolis. Jacksonville made the big splash going up to get Travis Hunter. It's an A- for the reason of what they gave up, but Travis Hunter is an unbelievable player, athlete, gonna play both sides. I think this is a home run move. Caleb Branshaw, I like a lot, gives you versatility, can play in the slot, can play corner, can play safety. Really good player, gave that pick an A. And then Wyatt Milam at 89, A+ to me on this pick. He is a versatile offensive lineman that, yeah, he's not super athletic, but he's smart. He blocks really well. I think this is a great pick. Then they took Baishal Tootin at 104. I liked this pick, but his fumbles worry me. At 104, it's a little early for my liking. I didn't like the double dip running back strategy from them. I'll be completely honest. They took Jack Kaiser at 107. I didn't know that linebacker was a huge need for this team. Kaiser doesn't give you a lot of athletic upside. I think he's a smart coverage player, can be an okay downhill player, but he's up there in age. I didn't love this, and I really didn't like the Jalen McLeod pick. I'm just not a big Jalen McLeod guy. Whether he's a linebacker, whether he's an edge, I don't really know where he'll play at the next level, but he's undersized. I get he's got good athleticism, but 6'1", 247, probably a designated pass rusher at the next level. So I just didn't like that pick very much. I give that a C-. Ryan Lane at 200. I like this pick, a athletic safety that I think can move really well for the position. I'm going to give this one a B+. I think it's good value at number 200. Jonah Monheim at 221. I think he can legitimately play all 5 positions on the offensive line for you. I think he was an underrated player this entire draft process. That's an A-. And then LaQuint Allen, top 10 running back in the class for me. The best receiving back in this draft. Great route runner, great hands. This is an A from Jacksonville. The overall draft, I'm going to give it an A. A lot of really good players in this class. The only player that I don't like is Jalen McLeod. Everyone else, I think, can be an impactful player for this Jags roster. And then we got the Tennessee Titans, who took Cam Ward at the number 1 overall pick, and they didn't mess up after that. I mean, maybe my favorite haul any team had in this class. I love every single player that they had was a borderline my guy in this class. Cam Ward, I talked about that in my grades. I'm not going to spend too much time on that one. Oluwafemi Oladejo, I love this pick. He's raw, but the athleticism is there. The length is there. He's a great run defender, and if he can develop as a pass rusher, he is going to be a pain to go up against. Kevin Winston's an A+, the best tackling safety in this draft class. He's got great athleticism. He's got range and coverage. He's really smart. At 82, it's just really good value. Kamire Dike at 103, phenomenal player to me. Great deep ball threat. A guy that can play in the slot, can play outside. I love a lot of the things he can do with the position. I just thought it was a little early for him, so I gave it a B, but I do love the player. Gunnar Helm at 120, it's an A. I think he's a perfect fit for what they want to do. You can motion him out. He's got great hands. He's a good route runner at the tight end position. Not really a blocking type of tight end, but at 120, I think you got to feel really good about that. Alec Iomaner's an A+, one of the top 10 receivers in this class, fell into their lap at 136. He's got size, he's got athleticism, and he is just a dog. So I love that pick for Tennessee. Jackson Slater is another A, could have been an A+. They get a really good guard. Kevin Zeitler, I believe, only signed a 1-year deal. I think Slater starts for this team next year, one of my favorite FCS players in the entire draft. They take Marcus Harris at 183, another player that I really liked. I thought he didn't get enough talk because a lot of people talked about his teammate Noah Williams, but he ran a 4.38, had 6 pass breakups, 2 interceptions. He's a little slim, 5'10", 188. He's not a great tackler, not great on play strength, but he's sticky and twitchy in coverage, so I love that pick. And then they get a power back at 188 that complements Spears and Pollard perfectly. This is an A draft from Tennessee. Every pick, I think, is going to be impactful. It makes sense, and a really, really good job from Tennessee. Moving on to the Denver Broncos. I did not like this Broncos draft. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I loved the Jahdae Barron pick, first and foremost. I love the versatility. And then after that, RJ Harvey at 60, I gave a B+ because I like his impact as a receiving back. I think is a great complement to what you have in Audric Estime. He's a little shifty, but I thought it was a little early at number 60. Pat Bryant, I thought was way early. I had a 5th-round grade on him. He's a good blocking receiver, but not a guy that I think is going to challenge deep. He's going to be a contested catch, intermediate parts of the field type of receiver. I just would have liked to see them swing for a little bit more upside. Go get Iomaner. Go get DK. Go get more of that type of player. I just didn't love the fit. I like Savion Jones, though. Inside-outside type of a defensive lineman. Really good player. Good explosiveness. I think he was another guy that just didn't get talked about enough in this process. 6'5", 289. He's got good bend. He's a raw player, but a guy that I think could develop into being a nice piece there. Q Robinson at 134. A little early on that one for me, but the athleticism is really, really good. He is just coming into his own as a pass rusher, so I like that pick. And then they took Jeremy Crawshaw, the punter out of Florida. Gave that one a C. Caleb Lawner, a player I'm not too familiar with, I gave that one a C as well. Overall for the Broncos, I give this like a B-. I think you got players that are going to contribute, but I don't know that you're going to get a lot of like elite production from anybody outside of Jahdae Barron. With the next team, we'll talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, every pick that they made was phenomenal, I thought. Getting Josh Simmons at 32, who I think could be a franchise left tackle. He's not going to play this year. If I had to guess, they're going to probably roll with Jalen Moore. But it's an A+ because if he's healthy, he is the top tackle in the draft class. Omar Norman Lott, the perfect player to pair next to Chris Jones as a pass rushing type of defensive tackle that's really good with his hands. Love that pick. Ashton Gelati, I gave a B. I like Gelati a lot. I like his power, like his bend, good run defender. Was a little early for me at 65, but he fits exactly the type of guy that Kansas City typically likes to go with. At number 85, Noel Williams is the pick. And I like this move for the Kansas City Chiefs. He is a really good corner that's got ball skills. He moves well. I think he's going to be a good fit and a guy that's going to be able to create turnovers. Jalen Royals at 133, maybe the steal of the draft, number 9 receiver on my board. He's athletic. He's good after the catch. He knows how to get open. He can challenge deep. So much to love about his game. At 156, they got Jeffrey Bassa, a top 5 linebacker in the draft on my board. Had him at 5. I like the athleticism. I like his coverage ability. He's going to need to improve his instincts and improve his downhill ability. But I thought it was a great pick at 156. And then Brashard Smith, right up there with LaQuint Allen, is the best receiving back in the class. I mean, exactly the type of back that they needed. Another A. This is an A+ draft from Kansas City. Just a master class by Veach and Andy Reid of pulling off this class. Absolute haul for the Chiefs. The Raiders, they had a really interesting draft. I loved what they did the first 2 days. Jack Besh, I love him. Great blocking receiver. Maybe not the highest upside in terms of athleticism, but I love that pick. Ashton Jeanty, I talked about that in the grades video. Darian Porter, exactly the type of corner that Pete Carroll loves. He's big, he's long, he's physical, great speed. This is a guy that I think could be awesome for this team. He's a little raw, but at 68, I think it's good value. Caleb Rogers and Charles Grant, though, 2 offensive linemen I really like. Charles Grant gets an A+. At 99, you get a potential franchise left tackle with Colton Miller's status up in the air. I love that. He can play guard. He can play tackle. So much to love about his game. And then Caleb Rogers, a guy that played tackle, played guard. A lot to love about him. I think he starts for this team right away. Took Dante Thornton at 108. It was a little high for me, but pairing him with Geno Smith is a lot of fun. I can't lie. I really like what he's going to be able to do as a deep threat. So I like that fit. Tonka Hemingway at 135, a little high for me, but a guy that can get after the quarterback, a good athlete on the inside. Gave that one a B. JJ Pegues, a guy that can play fullback, wildcat quarterback, defensive tackle, really fun player, and a player that I think the Raiders fans are going to really like, so I liked that. Tommy Mellott and Cam Miller, 2 FCS quarterbacks that Miller more than likely is a quarterback. Mellott looks like he'll make a transition to receiver. I'm down with it. It's an interesting thought process. I gave it a C+ and a B. I like Cam Miller, though. I think he throws a really nice ball, and he's really good athletically. And then Cody Lindenberg, I gave an A. I love Lindenberg. He's a smart linebacker. No, he isn't going to give you this insanely high athleticism. Ran a 4.71, but he's just a really smart, cerebral linebacker. So for the Raiders, I think I'll give them like a B+. I didn't love some of the picks later on day 3, but overall, really good draft from the Raiders. Then we go on to the last team in the AFC, the LA Chargers. I'm lower on Omarion Hampton. I gave that a B. I'm lower on Trey Harris. I gave that a B. But I understand the Trey Harris pick because you want athleticism and you want a deep ball threat for Justin Herbert. You lost Josh Palmer. I think Trey Harris can come in, fill that role right away. I liked that pickup a little bit more. Hampton, to me, I just don't love his lack of lateral quickness. I don't love the lack of blocking ability. So I gave it a B. It's not my favorite pick in the world, but it's not a bad one by any means. But I loved what they did after that. Jamari Caldwell, big physical nose tackle with some juice to get after the quarterback. He gave that an A-. I really like this. They lost Puna Ford. I think they found their replacement right there. Kyle Kennard at 125, A+. He was a lot higher on my board. Top 100 guy, borderline, I think he made my top 100. He just knows how to get after the quarterback. Not a great athlete, but a plethora of pass rush moves. Really like that pick. Keandre Lambert-Smith at 158, a guy I'm a little bit lower on than the consensus seemed to be. And I think you got a deep ball threat in Trey Harris. I don't know that they needed to go out and get Lambert-Smith. I had a 7th round grade on him. Good long speed, good deep ball threat, but I don't think he's a great overall route runner. At 165, Oronde Gadsden, I loved this pick. I think he's a phenomenal receiving tight end. Fits exactly the type of tight end that I think the Chargers needed. At 199, they got Branson Taylor, the offensive tackle out of Pittsburgh. Another pick that was fine to me. Could be a swing tackle, maybe play some guard. Not a bad move. RJ Mickens, A+. I loved Mickens, was a top 10 safety in the class for me, and a guy that I think is really good value for what he could do. Good athlete, sticky in coverage, can play downhill. Loved this pick. And then they took Triqueze Bridges at 256, another player I'm not as familiar with. But overall for the Chargers, I'm going to give this draft a B. I think it was a solid overall draft for them. Would have liked to have seen some different moves here or there, but overall, good draft from LA. Moving on to the Cowboys. I love what Dallas did. Took Tyler Booker early. Thought it was a little rich for him, but I like his fit for the Cowboys. They like to run more gap stuff than any team. He fits their scheme really well. He's a big, physical offensive lineman that's got phenomenal anchor, and he's going to be able to keep Dak Prescott upright. So I love that pick. And then their next 2 picks, Donovan Ezeraku, Savone Revel. Absolutely love both of these players. Ezeraku, really, really fun edge rusher. 6'2", 248, 82 and 3/8 inch arms. He's got athleticism. He can stop the run. 8.1% missed tackle rate. Really good number there. He just knows how to get after the quarterback. Great counters. He just has so many different moves. Big fan of his game. And then Revel at 76 was a top 3 or 4 corner in the class for me. He's got the size, the athleticism, the coverage versatility, and the tackling that you look for. He fell because of injuries, but this guy would have been a top 15 pick had he been healthy. Jaden Blue at 149. I didn't love this pick for Dallas. I'm lower on Jaden Blue. The juice is apparent. He's incredibly quick, incredibly fast. Fumbles are a massive concern for him, so that's why I gave it a B-. Shamar James, I gave a B. Not one of my favorite linebackers in the class, but a guy that tested out decently well. He's big. I think he is going to be an interesting player. He's not a guy that I was super in love with. Had some missed tackle concerns from time to time. Not an awesome coverage player either. So I gave it a B. It's fine. Johnny Cornelius at 204, I gave an A-. I think it's a good range to take a swing on a good tackle. I think he can play both sides of the line. He's been productive for the Ducks throughout his career, so I liked the thought process. And then they took Jay Toya out of UCLA. I like this pick. Go get a big run-stuffing defensive tackle for the middle of your defense. That's exactly what you're getting in Toya. Phil Maffa, the complete opposite of Jaden Blue. Jaden Blue gives you a lot more explosiveness. Maffa, not as much. He's been productive, but not my favorite running back. I had a priority UDFA grade on him, so I gave it a B. Again, there were other backs that I liked better. And then they took Tommy Akinbasot. I probably butchered that name. Did not get around to his tape, but another guy that was a Shrine Bowl player. Had some decent numbers there. Tested out decently well. profiles probably more as a run stuffer. But for the Cowboys, the Ezeraku, Revel, and Booker picks I liked. Even though Booker, it's a C, probably will change that. I would change that to probably a B+. I'm going to give this Cowboys draft a B-. I thought they reached on some guys in day 3, but overall, good players selected. The New York Giants, I liked their draft a lot. Abdul Carter, it's an A. You get a top 3 player in the class, a great pass rusher. Jackson Dart, I didn't like. I'm not a fan of him as a prospect. Way too many question marks. After that, I thought it was home run after home run after home run. Darius Alexander, the perfect complement to Dexter Lawrence, a guy that can rush the passer. He's been productive. A+ pick there. Cam Scatterbo, just hard-nosed running style that I absolutely love. He's a good receiving back. A+. Marcus Bowe at 154. A+. You needed a guard. You needed a right tackle. Marcus Bowe, I think, could do both for you. Really good player. At 219, Thomas Fidone. I like his potential as a receiving tight end. Can he be more consistent? Can he stay healthy is really the big concern with him. I gave it a B+. And then Corey Black, I gave a B+. Not as familiar with his tape. Didn't get around to it. But from the little clips I've seen, he's explosive. And he's a really good fit next to what they have in the secondary. I think it's worth taking a chance on at 246. I'm giving the Giants draft an A. I think they did a really good job of filling their needs, getting some really high upside players. And even though I don't like Dart, I think you bet on the upside of him. The potential is certainly there. I'm going to give that an A draft for the Giants. Then we move on to the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, every pick they made was good. Jahad Campbell, A+, top 10 player in the class for me. Andrew Makuba, a versatile defensive back, safety type prospect that can play in the slot, elite ball skills. Can he improve his tackling? He very well could, and he could be a monster. Ty Robinson, explosive 3-tech, a guy that showed the ability to stuff the run, but his pass rush juice is phenomenal. Was one of the best testers at the combine. He goes at 111. At 145, Mac McWilliams out of UCF, a guy that is a really good athlete. He ran a 4.41. He's a hard hitter. Versatility. He's a little bit undersized at 5'9", 181. He's not a great tackler, but I think he gives you some versatility in the secondary. Smile Mondon at 161. Their patented Georgia pick. Good linebacker that could be a downhill presence. I'm not the highest on Mondon, but at 161, I think it's good value. Drew Kendall at 168. A center from Boston College that I really like. Definitely more of a developmental offensive line prospect, but a good one nonetheless. Kyle McCord, my QB3 in the class, goes here. I like the fit with the offensive line. I would have liked to see Kyle McCord go to a place where he's actually going to get a chance to play. Before the Eagles, you get a really good backup quarterback. I gave it a B+. Miles Hinton and Cameron Williams, 2 athletic offensive line prospects that are very raw, particularly Cameron Williams, but they have upside to develop under Jeff Stoutland. And then Antoine Powell-Ryland, undersized pass rusher, but the juice and production has been ridiculous. 6'2", 253, had 48 pressures, 14 sacks on a 17% win rate. He's a really good player. The Eagles draft really good players. It's an A draft in Philadelphia. Washington, I did not like the Josh Connerly pick. I really don't understand the thought process there. I don't get it. I think they could have done other things with it. I still give it a C, but I like the rest of this draft. Trey Amos, A+. I think he could play in the slot. I think he could play on the boundary and just be a really good instinctive corner. He's really smart, great ball skills, really good closing speed and zone coverage. I think this is an A+. And then Jalen Lane at 128. Explosiveness, a guy that could be an ace on special teams, but I like him as a slot receiver for this team. A guy that I think can stretch the field vertically, really good route runner across the middle. I like this pick for Washington at 128. Kane Madrano at 205. I get it, had a really good combine. I think he could be a nice special teamer, but a guy that I had a late 7th round grade on. Not a great tackler, not very strong. His play strength is not all the way there. So he's 6'2", 219 as well. He's a little bit small, but I like his athleticism and I like his coverage upside. And then Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt at 245 could be one of the steals of the draft. He fell because there's just a lot of question marks around kind of what happened at Arizona. Obviously, eligibility concerns. It's why he didn't end up playing. But This guy knows how to run the football. I like his upside. I wouldn't be surprised if he's starting for this team. He's patient. He's powerful. He's got good footwork. I'd like to see him play a little bit lower, but a really good player nonetheless. I'm going to give the Commanders draft a B. I think it was a good draft. I thought they reached on Connerly, and that's really my only note and why this is not an A draft. Chicago, weird draft. Colston Loveland, I gave a C+. I get it. They wanted more of a receiving, route running type of tight end, similar to Sam Laporta. I just don't think he's a better player than Tyler Warren, so I gave it a C+. Luther Burden's an A+. I love this move. You pair him next to DJ Moore, Rome Odunze. He could be that slot player that you're looking for because we don't know if Keenan Allen's coming back. So if he doesn't, I think you got a really good receiver. And then after that, I think it kind of crumbles. Ozzie Trapillo, I love. I think he's a great player. He's a right tackle, though. And I don't think he's really athletic enough to be a left tackle. So if you're planning to move him to the left side, I just don't get it. I don't like the fit really at all there. Gave that a B-. Shamar Turner, really raw defensive line prospect. I gave it a B. The upside certainly there. Ruben Hippolyte, one of the worst picks of the draft, gave that a D. He's athletic. He comes downhill really well, but he's really not great in coverage, has a lot to improve upon in that regard. I like the Zaw Frazier pick. I do. I think he's a really good player, really long, still a raw corner, but this team has really got a good secondary going. Just continue to add depth to it. I think Zaw Frazier is that guy. Luke Newman at 195. I really liked this pick for Chicago, actually. I think he's a guy that can play tackle. He can play guard. He's versatile. Where did I have Luke Newman in my final rankings? I had a PUDFA grade on him. I was a lot lower on him for a while. He's not the greatest athlete in the world, but I do love his potential and pass protection. Good footwork, strong anchor. I give that a B+. And then Kyle Monangai at 233 is an A-. Power running style. He's a great blocking back as well. He's going to make the Bears very happy. See, it's weird because I like a lot of the players the Bears drafted, but I think they overdrafted some of them. Loveland, Turner, Hippolyte. I'll give this draft a B-. I thought it was weird, but overall, not an awful draft in the first year with Ben Johnson there. The Detroit Lions, interesting draft as well. Tyreek Williams, I liked the pick. Big nose type defensive lineman. Fine with that move. Tate Ratledge is an A+, one of the best guards in the draft class. He moves exceptionally well for the offensive line. I love this player, and he is their starting guard right away. Isaac Tesla, I love this pick. I love this player. I didn't love that they moved 3 second-round picks. I didn't love that they picked him at number 70. And I think it's a weird situation where he's a big slot, but you already have Amon-Ra playing that slot role. Weird situation there. I gave it a C. Miles Frazier, A+. How he was on the board is shocking to me. One of the best pass-protecting guards in the class. Absolute steal for Detroit. Ahmad Hassanin at 196, I gave an A. I like his potential. I think he can play inside. I think he can play edge. And he's a really good overall edge rusher. And they finish it off with 2 Georgia players. Look, I just don't like Dominic Lovett. I guess the value on him was fine, but he's 5'9", 181, another slot receiver, gave it a B. And then Dan Jackson, he's a good, smart safety, but he's limited athletically. He's been productive, there's no doubt about it, but I gave those 2 picks a B. Overall, I give the draft a B for the Lions. They traded a lot for Isaac Tesla. They got 2 really good guards and a good nose tackle, but questions around the rest of this draft class. Next up, the Green Bay Packers. Another draft that, I didn't love. Matthew Golden was a home run pick. I loved that. One of my favorite picks of the entire draft. Anthony Belton at 54 is interesting. I don't know if they view him as a guard, if they view him as a tackle. Either way, at 54, really high to take him. And I think it's an interesting spot for him. I don't know how much... The offensive line is an area that the Packers seem to address every year. I know Zach Tom's coming up on a new contract, and there's question marks there. I don't know that I would have taken a tackle at 54. That's really what it comes down to. So I gave it a B. Savion Williams, I gave a B-. This team struggled with drops last year anyways, and they get a wide receiver that has had really bad hand concerns throughout his career. So I gave it a B-. I do love the different ways that you can use him, though. Baron Sorrell, B+. Loved the fact that he was at the draft on day 3. I love this guy in terms of his length. Really moved up my board as the year kind of progressed. Maybe a little high, but he's a really fun overall athlete. Got good length for the position. Good size. Needs to improve his consistency as a pass rusher, but overall, a good selection. And then they took Colin Oliver, which I gave a C. I had a priority UDFA grade on Oliver. I didn't know if he's a linebacker, didn't know if he's an edge. I still don't know if he's a linebacker or edge. He's got really bad tackling. He's not a great run defender. And as a pass rusher, I just don't know that he's going to be a consistent enough threat. So I gave that pick a C. Warren Brinson, I gave a B+. I like Brinson. I like Stackhouse a little bit more, but he's a little bit more explosive. I think he's going to be a solid contributor early on as a good run defender. So I gave that a B+. At 237, they took Micah Robinson, the corner out of Tulane. Not as familiar with him, so I'm not going to spend very much time on that. They needed corner depth. I thought there were better ones on the board. And then they took John Williams at 250. I gave this an A-. I like John Williams a lot. I think he's a good overall athlete. A guy that I think has the potential to be like a really interesting swing tackle. He's a little heavy on his feet, gets beat inside, but a guy who only allowed 8 pressures on 825 snaps last year. So I gave John Williams an A-. Overall for the Packers, man, where do I think I'd give them? I'd probably give the Packers a C+. I'll give it a B+, or no, a B-, excuse me. Outside of the golden pick, wasn't in love with the rest of this draft in Green Bay. To Minnesota we go, and they reached heavily on one player, but overall I thought this was an interesting draft. Donovan Jackson, versatile offensive lineman, it's a B+. They have completely overhauled that offensive line, and it looks really good. Ty Felton, I really like him as a number 3. You pair him next to Addison and Jefferson. He's not great when he has to separate against more physical corners, but now he won't have to be. I think there's a really good spot for him to land. I gave that a B+ as well. Ingram Dawkins, I think, was a reach. I don't think he's a good athlete. I don't think he's a good pass rusher. So what is he? I don't really know. He's another Georgia defensive lineman. And, yeah, I just don't have a lot to say. He was a big reach for me. Was in my reaches video where, I mean, he didn't run very well. Ran a 4.86. He's a bit of a tweener. I don't think he's a great athlete. Misses a lot of tackle, and he's just not very bendy. So C- there on Ingram Dawkins. Kobe King, I gave a B. He's a weird linebacker. He's more of your traditional thumping downhill linebacker. He's 6'1", 236. Good size, good blitzer, good power, but he's not a great athlete. He's not great in terms of his change of direction. He's not a great man coverage guy really at all, but I like this for them. I think it's a nice change of pace from the linebackers they have. I gave it a B. And then Gavin Bartholomew, solid tight end depth for them as well. I give the B. I'm going to give this draft a B for the Vikings. I think they did a really good job of addressing the needs. Would have liked to have seen them go after secondary. That was their biggest need. They didn't address secondary once in this draft. They get a B. Moving on to the NFC South. Really interesting draft here from Atlanta. Only had 5 picks. They took Jalen Walker and James Pierce. Both of those are Bs. Jalen Walker, I'm lower on the consensus. I get that he's a chess piece, but he's not a great linebacker. He's not a great pass rusher. If you're drafting a designated pass rusher at 15, I think it's too high. So I gave that a B. James Pierce would be an A+ to me if you didn't move next year's first to go get him. Pierce has off-the-field concerns, but the athleticism, bend, juice that he plays with is really intriguing. Then they got Xavier Watts, and I was like, okay, I love this for them. Pairing him next to Jesse Bates. You lost Justin Simmons. I think Watts is absolutely perfect for that role, and that he can be a downhill player. He can play really well in coverage. 6 interceptions, 4 pass breakups this past year. I'm in. And then they took Billy Bowman at 118. And Billy Bowman's a good player. Ran a 4.42, really small. Both those guys I feel like are very similar in terms of skill set, I just didn't understand this pick. I like the Jack Nelson pick at 218. He's not very athletic, but good offensive line depth for them. Would have liked to have seen them take Jake Majors, though, or some sort of center, because that's a big question mark. I'm going to give this draft a B for Atlanta. I like a lot of the players, but I don't think they make a lot of sense on the same team. And I thought they overpaid on the trade to go get James Pierce. So I'm going to give it a B for Atlanta. Carolina here, really interesting draft from them. They took Ted McMillan. I gave it a B initially. I'm going to give this one an A-. I think this is a really good pick. Now, the more I look at it, the more I like it. He's just a really good physical type of receiver that is a perfect complement to Xavier Legette and to Jalen Coker. Just a home run. I love this pick for them. Nick Scorton, Princely Umanmielen, they double dipped at edge. Scorton, really young, really athletic. The upside is certainly there. 6'2", 257. Did not play well with his hand in the dirt this past year for A&M. Probably more of an off-ball type of guy in terms of a 3-4 outside linebacker. But I love the fit there. Umanmielen was one of my favorite picks of the draft. I love his fit here. I liked that. I gave that an A. And they took Trevor Etienne. I hated this pick. I really did. They brought in Rico Dowdle. You got Chubba Hubbard. I know Jonathan Brooks is hurt. They didn't need another running back. They didn't need to do this. I gave it a C-. I also don't love the fit. I thought it was way too early for Etienne. I think he's a little bit... he gets tackled behind the line of scrimmage too often. He doesn't have great contact balance. At 114, it was just too early. At 122, Lathan Ransom, I like this pick. A smart defensive back. Reminds me a little bit of Trayvon Merrick, who they have on the team. Not bad value there. Cam Jackson, a big run-stuffing defensive tackle at 140. I think is a really good pick. At 163, they got Mitchell Evans. I think he's a really good tight end. A weird tight end room with Jatavian Sanders, Tommy Tremble. Now you got Mitchell Evans in there, but I think he's a guy that can block a little bit. He can receive a little bit and do a little bit of everything. Still coming off, he had an ACL tear at the back half of 2023. Never really returned to full strength, but I like this pick. And then Jimmy Horn, I gave this pick a B+. I'm going to give this draft an A- from Carolina. I think they did a really good job. Would have liked to have seen them go get more of a traditional corner instead of Trevor Etienne, but I think it's a really good draft from Carolina. Moving on to the New Orleans Saints. They did the right thing. They got Kelvin Banks, got an offensive lineman. They didn't reach on a quarterback. Tyler Shuck at 40 might seem like a reach to some people. I like the value. I think he starts for this team week 1. I had him like right outside my top 100. Nonetheless, Shuck, I think, gives you a high ceiling. He's got a big arm. He's athletic, good pocket presence. I like his fit. At 71, they took Vernon Broughton. I love his hands. I love his ability to get after the quarterback. One of the best pass rushing defensive tackles in the draft. I gave that a B+. Jonas Sanker, I gave a B-. I didn't think they needed to address safety this high. They did it at number 93. I didn't love that pick for them. I like Sanker, the player. He's a good athlete, can play in the box, can play over the top, but I thought it was a little bit rich. At 112, they got Danny Stutzman. I like it. I thought they've done a pretty good job of developing some of these linebackers in the past, whether it be Demario Davis, whether it be Pete Werner. Stutzman gets to go in, and I think he's going to be a really nice piece for them. At 131, you got Quincy Riley. Gave this pick an A+. I think he can play in the boundary or on the slot. He's quick. He's physical. Didn't have the greatest of years in 2024, but I do really love his game and think he's a great fit for New Orleans. At 184, Devin Neal was the pick. One of my favorite running backs in the class. Reminds me a lot of Tony Pollard. And with the question marks around Alvin Kamara, I think that this is definitely something that makes a lot of sense. And then they finished it off getting Maliki Matevau out of UCLA. Good pick. He's very underdeveloped, very raw as a tight end. He's 6'5", 265. Not a great athlete, but definitely worth a developmental shot. And then Fadil Diggs at 254. Really good athlete, tested well at the combine. He's going to be able to get after the quarterback. I'm going to give this draft an A- from the Saints overall. I think they did a really good job of filling some of their holes. I thought Mickey Loomis did a good job of not reaching on players, and I think they've got a lot of guys that I could see being impactful pieces in the future for New Orleans. Moving on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They took Emeka Egbuka in the first round. I still don't understand this. What does Jalen McMillan's future look like? Trey Palmer has shown flashes. I didn't love that. You brought back Chris Godwin. I thought they overdrafted a wide receiver, so I gave this a C-. But I love the rest of their draft. Benjamin Morrison, A-. Great corner. Obviously, coming off the hip injury, but if he develops properly, he's one of the best corners in this draft class. Jacob Parrish, I'm guessing you're drafting him. He'll play in the slot. You move Tyke Smith back to safety. You've got a lot of versatility in this secondary now, so I really love that pick. That's an A. David Walker and Elijah Roberts, two of my favorite defensive linemen in the class. Walker, more of an off-ball type of player, but he plays with his hair on fire, comes downhill really, really well. He has been so productive. He's explosive. He's powerful. He can defend the run. A+ there. And then Elijah Roberts. I love this pick. If you view him as a 3-4 defensive end or a defensive tackle, he is phenomenal. He knows how to get into the backfield. He's got great length, 22.4% win rate, 60 pressures. I love this pick. And then Tez Johnson. At 235, the value's too good. I gave that a B+. So overall, I'm going to give this draft a B+ for Tampa. I just didn't love the Egbuka pick, and I know he's going to be good for them. But you're now drafting a wide receiver 3 at number 19. That just doesn't make sense. I'm going to give this draft a B+ for that reason. Arizona, I loved this class. Walter Nolan, Will Johnson, two of my favorite players in the class. Two top 10 players. You get in the top 50. You immediately get an A+ for that. This draft is an A+ because of that. But then they got Jordan Burch, great run defender, great versatile defensive lineman, very similar to Darius Robinson. I think he gives them a lot of versatility, and he could be a really fun piece for them. Cody Simon at 117. I like his downhill presence as a linebacker. Coverage, maybe a little bit underdeveloped, but this is a guy that was my number 6 linebacker in the class. He had a 72.7 coverage grade. He's not awful. His block shedding can be a bit up and down, but overall, I like this pick for Arizona. Then they took Denzel Burke. I just didn't like Denzel Burke as a prospect. I don't think he's very fast. I don't think he's very smart. I just don't love the pick. It's a C+. I get it. The value's good on paper, but just not a guy I really want to take. Hayden Connor, a B-. I like Connor. I think he's a fine offensive lineman. A guy that 6'6", 314, solid overall athlete, is a good pass protector, good anchor. Is not a great run blocker, but I think is a good value pick at 211. And then Keaton Crawford at 225, my guy safety in this class. Love the athletic juice that he plays with. Super quick, super fast. I like this pick a lot. A+ draft from Arizona. The LA Rams didn't have a lot of picks, but I love what they did in this draft. Getting Terrence Ferguson, going out and getting a pass-catching tight end. I loved that move. Josiah Stewart was a weird one to me because you got Byron Young, who's a really good player. Why would you draft a very similar type of player? Josiah Stewart's undersized. He's not very strong or powerful. He's more of a designated pass rusher. So I don't know that they can play at the same time, and I just didn't love the fit. So I got him at number 90, at a B on that pick. And then he took Jarquez Hunter. I didn't understand this. They've got Kyron Williams, who's a top 5 to 6 back in the league. And you drafted Blake Corum last year. Why go back to the running back? Well, I didn't understand it. I thought there were better backs to be had. He's got great contact balance. He can catch the ball a little bit. I like Jarquez Hunter, the player, but I didn't love the value at 117. But the rest of the draft I thought was phenomenal. Ty Hamilton at 148. Good defensive tackle that can stuff the run. A- there. Pooh Paul, one of the biggest steals of the draft. My number, what do I have him at? Number 2? My number 3 linebacker in the draft at 172. He's undersized. This guy is going to be a beast for LA. He can come downhill. He's not a great coverage linebacker, but a really good downhill presence that can blitz, that can be a good run defender. A+ pick there. And then Kanata Mumfield, maybe the most Rams pick I've ever seen. He is so Rams, and the way he runs routes, the way he just, as a receiver, I gave this one a B+. Overall, I'll give this draft a B for LA. San Francisco, interesting class here. Michael Williams, Alfred Collins. I'll just kind of give a brief overview of what they did. They improved the trenches, and they said, nobody's running the ball against us again. And I like that. Michael Williams, great run defender. Can he be a more consistent pass rusher is the question, but I gave that a B. Alfred Collins at 43, I'd give this more of a B+. I think it's a good pick. He's a great nose tackle and a guy that I think could be a good run stopper. Nick Martin, I did not understand this pick. I think he's very underdeveloped. Way more question marks than answers with him. He's undersized. He's a good athlete, but he's not a great tackler. He's got a lot of concerns for me. So C-, one of the biggest reaches of the draft, in my opinion. Upton Stout, I like because I think he can play safety. He can play in the slot. He can play outside. Versatile defensive back, I gave that a B. CJ West, A+, one of my favorite players in the draft. I like this pick a little bit more than the Alfred Collins pick. I think he is a very good run defender who brings you a little bit as a pass rusher as well. I had Alfred Collins as my number 9 defensive tackle. CJ West as my number 11 defensive tackle. Jordan Watkins, I thought was way overdrafted. That was a C pick for me. A good slot receiver. I know he's a good deep threat, has speed, but I just didn't love the value at 138 for a guy that I had a P UDFA grade on. At 147, Jordan James, perfect fit for this team. More of that power back style, similar to what you had in Jordan Mason. I like Isaac Garindo on this team. You obviously got Christian McCaffrey if he can stay healthy. Jordan James, I think, is a really good third back for you. Marcus Siegel, I gave a C-. I thought this was another overdraft for San Francisco. I had Siegel as a 7th-round prospect, my number 29 safety. Good athlete, but he's pretty meh in coverage. His eyes got lost a lot in zone. He bit a lot on quick double moves. So I'm going to give this one a C-. Curtis Rourke, I gave a B+. I like Rourke. I think he's a good fit for the Shanahan system. Gets the ball out of his hands quickly. Accurate quarterback. Connor Colby, that's an A for me. Really good player. Fits the zone scheme perfectly that San Francisco wants to run. A really fun piece there. And then Junior Burgeon, wide receiver out of Montana, a guy I'm not as familiar with. I'm going to give this draft a B- for San Francisco. I like what they did. I thought they overdrafted on about 4 different players, though, and not a move that I really loved. So they get a B-. And then to finish it out, the last team is the Seattle Seahawks. I loved this draft. Gray Zabel, A+. You improved the interior of the offensive line. Nicky Menwari, A+. A guy I would have taken at 18. Versatile safety that can do everything. Elite athlete. Elijah Arroyo, good receiving tight end. Thought it was a little early for him, to be completely honest. I think he's very similar to Noah Fant, but a guy that he knows how to run routes and get open. He's a great fit there. Jalen Milroe, I gave an A. I think he's a perfect fit for the Kubiak offense. He's the perfect number 2 quarterback, and he's in a situation where he doesn't have to start right away. Riley Mills at 142, I gave a B. I thought they needed a little bit more girth on the inside. They did not go that direction. They went with Mills, who is a little bit smaller, more of that 3-tech type of guy. I gave it a B, 6'5", 291. I would have liked to have seen them go with more of a nose. But then they got Torrey Horton, A+ there. A steal of the draft to me. A guy that can win deep. Exceptional athlete. He's an older prospect, but at 166, the value is ridiculously good. Robbie Oates at 175 gave a D, one of my least favorite picks of the draft, a guy that I didn't think was draftable. Not a good athlete, not very productive as a receiver. You're drafting him to be a blocking tight end, but you got A.J. Barner last year who can do the same thing, but better. I gave this pick a D. Bryce Cable, I gave it an A. I really like this player. He can play tackle, can play guard. He's athletic. A pick to me. Damian Martinez, A+. Phenomenal running back. Not a great receiver, not a great blocker, but he's just a great runner. I haven't gotten to Mason Richmond, but a good swing tackle nonetheless. Gave that a B. And then Ricky White. If you wanted to be a slot guy, that's fine. I think he's a special teamer at the very worst, because he can block punts, he can return them. Excellent picks. A+ draft for the Seattle Seahawks, in my opinion. And that is it. The final video of the 2025 draft class. Let me know what you guys think of my grades down in the comment section below. Do you agree with them? Do you disagree? Leave a like, subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.